March 4th, 1918. The Atlantic Ocean. One massive Navy ship. 306 souls on board. 0 survivors. 0 wreckage. 0 explanations. The USS Cyclops. Welcome to Shadow Files. To understand this mystery, we need to go back to the beginning. The USS Cyclops was not just any ship. She was one of the largest fuel and cargo vessels in the entire United States Navy. Launched in 1910, she measured 542 feet in length. Her 4 massive cargo bins could hold thousands of tons of coal, ore, or war supplies. Her powerful engines could push her across the Atlantic Ocean in less than 3 weeks. She was a workhorse of the fleet, reliable, powerful, essential to the war effort. In early 1918, the United States had been fighting in the First World War for nearly a year. American ships were transporting critical supplies across the Atlantic every single day. Fuel, weapons, food, medical equipment, all of it was needed to sustain American and Allied forces in Europe. The Cyclops was one of the ships that made this massive supply operation possible. Her final mission would take her from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, all the way to Baltimore, Maryland. A journey of thousands of miles across some of the most dangerous waters in the world. But this was routine for the Cyclops. She had made similar trips many times before. On board were 306 people, 73 regular crew members, 233 passengers. Most of the passengers were Navy personnel returning home. But there were others too. Officers, sailors, consulate staff, even a former United States consul general to Brazil. Every single person on that ship expected to see their families again within weeks. The captain of the USS Cyclops was a man named George Worley. He had commanded the ship for 7 years. He was experienced. He was decorated. He knew every inch of that vessel. But he was also, according to some who knew him, a very unusual man. Worley was not born in America. His real name was Johann Friedrich Wickman. He was born in Germany. As a young man, he had immigrated to the United States and taken a new name to hide his German origins. For most of his life, this had been a personal detail. But in 1918, during a war with Germany, this fact suddenly became very important. Some officers who served under Worley described him as harsh, unpredictable, and prone to heavy drinking. Others described him as competent and fair. But when the Cyclops disappeared, his German background became one of the very first things investigators focused on. Was he a spy? Had he been secretly working for Germany all along? Had he intentionally steered his ship into danger? Had he arranged for the vessel to be sabotaged? Or was he simply a captain who found himself in a situation beyond his control? We may never know, because Worley disappeared along with his ship, and no evidence has ever emerged to definitively prove or disprove any theory about him. But the captain's background was not the only unusual thing about this voyage. The Cyclops was carrying an unusual cargo on her final trip. 10,800 tons of manganese ore. This is important. Manganese ore is not like coal or grain. It has very specific and dangerous properties. First, it is extremely heavy. A ton of manganese ore takes up much less space than a ton of most other cargo. Second, and more importantly, when manganese ore gets wet, it can behave in strange ways. It can become even heavier. It can shift dangerously inside a ship's hold. And if a ship encounters rough weather while carrying this kind of cargo, the ore can suddenly move to one side, throwing the vessel off balance. Some maritime experts believe this cargo may have been the beginning of the end for the USS Cyclops. If the ship encountered heavy seas, and if the ore shifted violently in her holds, the massive vessel could have capsized so quickly that no warning could be given. No distress signal could be sent. No lifeboats could be launched. No survivors could reach the surface. The ship left Rio de Janeiro on February 16, 1918. Her route was clear. She would sail north across the Atlantic, with a scheduled stop at Barbados for additional fuel and supplies. She arrived in Barbados on March 3, 1918. She took on additional coal. She replenished her food supplies. She confirmed her next destination, and she departed the following day, March 4th, 1918. That was the last time anyone ever saw the USS Cyclops. She was expected to arrive in Baltimore, Maryland, around March 13th. She never arrived. When she was overdue by several days, alarms were raised. Ships and planes were sent to search her expected route. But they found nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no floating debris, no lifeboats, no bodies, no trace of any kind that a 542-foot ship carrying 306 people had ever been in those waters. The United States Navy launched one of the largest search operations in its history. They swept the Atlantic Ocean from Barbados all the way to the coast of Maryland. They interviewed every captain who had been in the area during that time. They checked every port. They followed every rumor. They investigated every possible lead. For weeks, they searched. For months, they hoped. For years, they wondered. But the Cyclops was gone. Simply gone. As if she had never existed at all. Over the past century, many theories have been proposed to explain what happened. Let's look at the three most important ones. The first and most widely accepted theory is a sudden, catastrophic storm. The Atlantic Ocean in March can produce extremely violent weather with almost no warning. Combined with the unstable cargo of manganese, or a sudden storm or rogue wave could have sunk the Cyclops within minutes. This would explain the absence of any distress signal. It would explain the lack of debris. Fast disasters at sea often leave almost no trace behind. Even massive ships can disappear beneath the waves in a matter of moments. The second theory involves the war itself. In 1918, German submarines, known as U-boats, were extremely active in the Atlantic Ocean. They had sunk hundreds of Allied ships during the war. Some investigators believe the Cyclops was torpedoed by a U-boat operating in that region. But after the war ended, German naval records were carefully examined by American investigators. No U-boat reported sinking a ship matching the Cyclops in that area at that time. This theory, while possible, has never been supported by any direct evidence. The third theory is more mysterious. The USS Cyclops disappeared in the region of the Atlantic Ocean, now famously known as the Bermuda Triangle. Long before that name became famous in the 1960s, ships and planes have been vanishing in these waters. Some people believe there is something about this region that defies conventional explanation. Others argue that it is simply a busy shipping and flight area where accidents are statistically more likely to occur. The debate continues to this day. There are also other, less popular theories. Some believe the captain deliberately sabotaged the ship. Some believed there was a mutiny on board. Some believe the ship was captured by a foreign power. But none of these theories have ever been proven with hard evidence. For over 100 years, the case of the USS Cyclops has remained officially unsolved. The United States Navy has never closed the investigation. New evidence still occasionally emerges. New theories are still proposed. Diving expeditions have searched sections of the Atlantic floor, hoping to find the wreck. But so far, nothing has been recovered. Nothing has been confirmed. Nothing has provided the final answer. 306 people boarded a ship in Brazil in 1918. They said goodbye to friends. They wrote final letters to family. They looked forward to their homes, their loved ones, their futures. They expected to arrive in Baltimore within weeks. Instead, they became part of one of the greatest and most enduring mysteries in maritime history. Somewhere in the vast, dark Atlantic Ocean, the USS Cyclops lies. Perhaps at the bottom, buried in silt and sand. Perhaps torn apart across miles of ocean floor. Along with her lie the answers to questions we may never fully know. Was it a storm? A submarine? Something else entirely? A combination of factors that came together in the worst possible way? The sea has kept its secret for over a century. And perhaps it always will. Case File 1918. USS Cyclops. 306 souls. 0 answers. This file remains open. Because some cases don't end with answers. They end at the bottom of the sea. See you in the next file.